Well, let's talk about everything. This is, of course, our first thoughts presented by our friends over at Guaranteed Rate and rate.com/Sean Stanfield. You know, Morgan, this last 15 years of watching this team has been very painful at times. And you get glimmers of hope throughout the years that maybe just suck you back in. And to me, it's reminiscent of a time in which I used to wait outside.
Oh, no.
Wait outside. Just imagine a little 8-year-old Deuce waiting outside.
This is true story.
For dad to come pick him up. Oh, he's going to be there at noon. And he goes outside, looks at noon. He's out there at 11:30. Goes out there, not there. But eventually he comes. It's like, okay, I feel good. And then he's in your life for a little bit. It's feeling good. And like, this is going to be the time. It's all different. And then 6 months later, he's back in jail and eventually in prison. That's what I feel like is being a Kings fan sometimes. You get these glimmers of like, hey, look, I think it's turning around. They're on the right path. They're playing well. They're moving the ball. The defense looks a little better. Oh, man, if Fox gets it going, it's going to be okay. And what happens?
So the comparison is so dark, but at the same time, you see that Sacramento Kings, you could be Deuce's new dad, but you keep choosing to let him down. So he's not going to let you in. He's not going to let you do this again. I'm really sorry that ever happened to you.
Well, this is how it feels. Like,
and I'm so sorry that you still feel these feelings.
The pain. Like, you know.
It's awful.
And honestly, the last few games have been probably just really disappointing. I mean, if you look at the Indiana game, it's like, all right, you lose that game, you had an off night. Okay, it happens in the NBA. You don't freak out, whatever. The Phoenix game happens and... okay, let's see what happens. Third quarter, disgusting, pathetic, like all those things. You rally back. You make it look maybe better than it actually was. And so you're wondering, okay, can you get your stuff together for a road trip that features all losing teams, by the way?
All losing teams.
You've been pretty good on the road this year at 3-2 with some nice wins on the road. Can you just take care of business? And going in, I felt like San Antonio was the most difficult game, like was going to be the most challenging game. But I did not anticipate this, Morgan. And there are so many angles on this one, per usual with this. And we have to talk about the Bagley stuff too. But the thing that's just so deflating is how they come out of a game. Like, you have a third quarter like you did, which was ultra embarrassing. And then the first quarter of a road trip where you could set the tone with playing the right way. All you do is take bad shots and you don't play defense.
Yeah. Last
time I checked, was Pirtle in the game today?
He wasn't.
He's in health and safety protocols. They have no bigs. Legit, no bigs. Thaddeus Young is their biggest guy, Eubanks. So what do? We're not going to attack. You know what we're going to do? We're going to settle. We're not going to move the ball. We're just going to settle for bad shots. Buddy took bad shots early in this game. Fox missed some really easy shots early in this game. And you're left going, wait, is this just last year's team again? Is this what we're going to do again? Like, is this what is really happening? And that's why these next 3 games are probably some of the most important games of this early season.
So let's start a little bit with just even like you're saying, with the beginning of the game, not so much to break everything down, but you're exactly right. Your decision-making from the minute that game started, you knew you could attack the rim at such a different speed, at such a different strength, because who was in the middle and who was in the paint and who you were going up against. But you decided to keep settling on a lot of these outside shots. And that's just not the way to start the game when you are a team that benefits from pace, from taking it to the rack, to scoring in the paint, all of that. And again, there's going to be a lot to blame on a lot of different people and things tonight. But at the same time, I do want to say, I do not like Buddy Hield starting. I do believe that it takes the rhythm and what the identity they've been trying to form early on with Halliburton in the lineup, with just the ball movement, the pace and everything. Now, it's hard to push the pace when the opposite team, the opponents, are making every damn basket, right? Because then you have to take it out of bounds. Yeah, well, you got to go with it. But that all starts with really the physicality, the intensity, putting pressure on them so it's much more difficult for them to make these shots.
Just disappointing. And you mentioned not attacking early. They had 6 points in the paint in the first quarter, which is just shocking to me, again, because this is a team that you could attack. The Spurs gave up a lot of points in the paint. They're near the bottom. And then you let any NBA team get in a rhythm and get in their spots, they're going to get comfortable and potentially knock down shots. But Morgan, the Spurs came into tonight averaging 9.4 made threes a game.
Yep. And how many did they have in the first half?
That was last in the NBA coming into tonight. In the first half, they had 11.
Yeah.
They finished today with a season high in points, 136, a season high in three-pointers made, 18. And it's just disappointing. I just think from a defensive standpoint, like, look, you're going to miss shots at times, but it's about how you play a game. And when you don't play the right way, when you're taking bad shots, when you're not moving the ball, when you're over-dribbling, when you're not attacking, and then defensively, there's just no communication, and you're just getting beat by your guy, which is allowing the Spurs to get great shots. Seeing DeJounte Murray get by Fox, get inside the lane, and kick it out for three. Oh, there you go. Devin Vassell, open for three. There's Dougie McBuckets knocking down a three.
Yep.
It's one thing to lose a game. It's how you lose sometimes. We've been on this night chat before, and First Thoughts talking about, hey, man, you know what? Tough night. The Kings didn't shoot the ball well, but God, did they play the right way? And it was a tough loss.
Yeah.
They kept it close.
Yes.
This is not one of those games.
Not at all.
This is not. It got close a couple of times in the third when Fox got it going, but besides that, this is a game that
Deuce.
Same old stuff.
Deuce, I am so down to come into a night chat after even, let's say, a loss like this where, man, the other team, the San Antonio Spurs, who haven't been shooting well, haven't been doing well, but they did a great job tonight. Everything was falling for them. Great. Good for them, right? But it's hard to use that and to say, like, oh, those nights happen when the Kings are coming off of 2 other losses at home. And after one of the most embarrassing third quarters, I hope, of all of their lives, and with that alone, that should trigger something inside you to feel so differently about going into San Antonio and just wanting to play better and wanting the win more than anything in the world. And you're not seeing that as a complete unit. You're not seeing that right now.
A couple other things to point out. Tyrese Halliburton and Terrence Davis did not play in this game. So as Morgan mentioned, Buddy Hield was in the starting lineup. He hit a couple of threes late in the game, but started 0 for 7 from 3, ended up 2 of 9. He had 12 points. De'Aaron Fox tonight had 37 points, 7 of 8 from the free throw line. He was 14 for 24 overall, 2 of 5 from 3. He also had 6 assists. He had 4 turnovers, 3 blocks as well. And so on one end, like, you want to be encouraged that De'Aaron was able to find his game. On the other hand, I'm just like, well, I mean, it's 37 points and you got smacked around, and I just didn't feel like the defensive effort was good enough tonight. And that's cool. You got some points in a loss, like in a big loss. And that's why it's hard for me to get excited about. And you hope that, okay, can this carry over the next few games? You can handle business. But in this moment, it's hard for me personally to take anything good from tonight.
It is. But the way that he played in the second half, all I ask is, when your team is playing like shit in that first half, why can't you, again, I'm not an NBA player. I've never played in the NBA. Why don't you have the ability to turn that on in that first half when things are going to shit, when you need that leadership most?
It took too long. It took too long to turn it on.
It took too long. And credit the points in what he was doing in that second half. Yay, yes, now continue that. But at the same time, it just wasn't good enough because it started so late.
Yeah, and the Spurs, I think, the one thing you could say, when they have certain lineups out there, you go, oh, this is a very switchable team. And they're athletic, they're long, they could have some nice defensive moments. But again, you can counter that, and it's got to. And this starts it's a mentality. Like, I don't know what is said before a game, but like, coming out that way is just, to me, unacceptable. And that's why these next few games to me are the most important, really, of this early season, because it's going to tell you a lot about this team. Like, okay, you get OKC. Yeah, they've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but that's a game. If you're legit, if you want to prove that you're going to be around, you win that game. And it's not supposed to be a game. When you take on the Pistons, you win that game. when you take on Minnesota, you win that game. And I know Minnesota has some guys. I get all that. They're like the Sacramento Kings of the Midwest. But, like, you win that game if you're legit.
Deuce, because I told you before early on in the night when I had to do a hit on NBC Sports California and I had to talk to Kyle and Kenny.
Yeah.
And I asked them, I was like, hey, what are your expectations for this trip? Like, what would make you happy? Kyle laughed in my face like, duh, it's got to be 3 or 1. Like, what are you thinking, Morgan? And Kenny was more like, well, 2-2, I'll be happy. When you and I discussed this yesterday, it was like 2-2, for me was like my standard. You were more in the 3-1. And Kyle was just so much more like, well, why wouldn't it be, you guys? It's all these teams have losing records. And what I would say to Kyle is this is the team that's been here. Seems like to be last year, 15 years, however long you want to say it. It's been the losing culture. And that's what sucks because it's that glimmer of hope in the beginning of the season, the off season, those moves that are made. And then they suck you back right into where they really were. And now how do they crawl out of this hole before it gets far too deep and shitty again? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, another thing that jumped out to me tonight, Rashawn Holmes only played 18 and a half minutes. He had 6 points. He only had 5 shot attempts and 12 rebounds. And, part of this is because the Spurs, I thought, again, they do a good job with the pick and roll, but it doesn't seem like Fox and Holmes have that same chemistry in the pick and roll that Halliburton and Holmes have. And that is a concern, too. Like, that has to get better. I know Fox did have a lob to him at one point early in that game that led to a dunk from Holmes, but that is such an effective play. And Rashawn Holmes, it's not like you have to run a ton of plays for him, but you can get him in action with the pick and roll, but that floater game, like, you have to get him more involved because he's able to get so many easy looks.
It's such a fun thing to do as a point guard, that two-man game when you have that special bond. And even when you don't have that special bond, if you have that special big that is capable of catch, like you can trust him to catch it deep or far enough out of the paint, deep enough in the paint where he's going to dunk it down and still be strong with it. You can trust Rashawn Holmes as a big. So De'Aaron maybe just has to build more of that trust and understand like, hey, you can flick it back to him. You don't always have to be looking out in the corner. We don't always have to be looking out of the perimeter. Really work on that with Rashawn Holmes because it is such an efficient, dominant shot for this team.
I mean, and Fox just needs to be better at that. I mean, he's your starting point guard. Like, he has to have be an effective passer in the pick and roll.
Absolutely.
And especially when you have Rashawn Holmes. And it's nice to have Halliburton. But when Halliburton, obviously the Kings miss Halliburton, but Halliburton's not the reason you lost this game tonight, right? No. Like, that's what's just, it's disappointing up and down the board. Barnes not very effective tonight. Finally had like one of his bad games of the entire year. I'm not going to be too down about that.
Sure.
Metu hit some shots early. I got to be honest, didn't love Metu. Metu was gunning to me, and I felt like, good, you're getting this opportunity, but you don't have to shoot a 3 every time you get the ball.
Yes.
And again, you look at the box score. He had a career-high 13 points. He had 6 rebounds. He stays ready. He was 3 of 7 from 3, but some of those looks on the misses just weren't good looks to me.
I'm with you. It was like, hey, they're leaving me open. Oh, they want to leave me open? I'll show them what's up. Clank, clank, clank.
Yeah,
it's like you have to show them what's up and mix it up a little bit more because I know it's fun to keep shooting the ball when it's like you just have to get your rhythm, you have to get your flow going. But at the same time, for the team, it's just not fair for everyone to get the first pass, chuck it up.
I thought Davion Mitchell had a really rough game in this one. I know 13 points. He's 1 of 8 from 3. I just thought he was dribbling the hell out of the ball tonight. And young player in the league, like, hopefully he can learn from a game like tonight, but it's just nothing moved well offensively until Fox started getting it going in the third. And, Fox got it going. I guess I'm being a little more difficult on it. It's like, good. Like, we haven't seen him be efficient a lot this season. So if there's one thing you should take away, it's like, at least he was efficient, but you would like it to be in a win. You would like it to be in a situation where, Fox at 37, there's great balance. They moved the ball. It was great. They had 19 assists on 47 made shots. By the way, the Spurs had 34 assists tonight on their 49 makes.
Jesus.
And they had 7 guys in double figures. I thought Murray was great. He's a guy I like a lot.
Oh, yeah.
He had 26 points, 7 assists,
Thought
6
he was
rebounds.
Great. Of course he was great. And I mean, it's what I expected, a good game out of him.
Yeah.
But I also expected the Kings to understand that he was going to have a good
Yeah.
game because he is a good player. So what were you going to do differently defensively to try and slow him down? He wasn't even slowed down.
Yeah. In the chat, this person says, personally, I'm not mad at Fox. He's best when the ball's in his hands. Also, the Spurs were killing it from deep. Was this a product of bad defense by the Kings or a good shooting night by the Spurs? I would say both. Like, I think early on, it was really bad defense.
Yes.
And you let guys get comfortable. And then guys get in a rhythm. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter how good a defense you're playing. These guys are in a good rhythm. They're getting wide open looks at times. But now, even if they're not wide open, like I said, they're feeling good. They've knocked down some shots, and now they've got confidence. These are NBA players. Like, you give them enough open looks, and they start knocking them down, that confidence goes up, and they're going to start feeling good about themselves. And so, yeah, they shot lights out tonight. And the Spurs, they may not hit 18 threes again for the next month and a half, but the reality is it was the bad defense early that set that up.
And just to give people a clue on like, oh, well, what do you do when a team is shooting that well? Sometimes it's really difficult, especially when it's a single individual, especially when it's someone like a Steph Curry, where they can close their eyes, chuck it up, muscle memory, it goes in. But when a team is shooting well, what you need to do is just become a lot more physical, a lot more frisky and just really handsy, and really test the officials too and see what you can get away with on that end, being physical, being intense, because what that can help do is really just throw them off their game. Everything's in rhythm. Everything's coming easy to them. What do? Throw them off their game, whether it's mentally, physically, whatever, but be smart. Don't hurt anyone. I know.
I mean, it's just disappointing to see him come out there. It's again, I'm not one of these like people who are like, you should never lose a game, period. It's about how it looks too. And the Spurs, despite their record, I think they're better than their record. They've been in games this year. They've had some tough losses. They missed Pirtle, but they're a well-coached team. It looked good tonight. They're knocking down shots. They're not like a joke or anything, but you don't, in my opinion, you don't get run out of a gym by a team like this. That's how I look at it.
I feel ya.
Any other thoughts on tonight's game specifically before we move on and talk about the other big topic of the day?
Let's talk about the other big depressing topic of the day.
Well, during media availability, around 4 o'clock, Luke Walton talked to the media as he does every pregame. And it was interesting because Sean Cunningham from ABC 10 asked him a question about Marvin Bagley, and he had heard that he refused to come into the game. Here's Sean's tweet, by the way, from earlier. He said, multiple sources told me that Marvin Bagley III refused to check into Monday's game when Luke Walton called upon him in the second half against the Suns. He said, I didn't report it, wanting to first talk to the Kings coach. Walton said he and Marvin are in communication and he has been ready. Luke was asked about it by Sean and also by Jason Anderson from the Sacramento Bee. Let's play that from earlier today.
I know I've had some folks tell me that Marvin refused to check into that game when called upon. I wanted to wait to hear from you, just some perspective or some clarity on that.
Yeah, no, look, our guys all know, look, this is what is expected out of us as a group. And, Marvin and I are constantly in communication. And, today was about San Antonio. And today was a very good shoot around, and we're going into the night. But he and everyone else knows, like, we need everyone this year, and everyone has to be ready.
Did Marvin decline to go into that game?
Look, again, I'm not getting into anything that happens within our group. That's between our group. So the thing that matters is people know what's expected, and that we continue to move forward. And tonight, we got a very tough matchup against San Antonio, and they're coming off a couple of days rest, and we're at the beginning of a road trip. So it's a big game for us, and we're excited about that opportunity.
So there was Luke Walton pregame talking about Marvin Bagley, and of course he's not going to sit there and confirm it. He answered it probably the right way, just, hey, you know what, we keep that behind the scenes. But if it wasn't true, he would have said, hell no, that's wrong, that's inaccurate. So the reality is Sean Cunningham, he's a plugged-in guy. He's covered the team a long time in this market for Sports 1140, and then now with ABC 10, he knows what the hell he's talking about. And I was so infuriated when I heard that.
I know.
Because what the hell? I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And it's just, it's on top of everything. And how many times we talked about Marvin and his talent and what he can do. He's a good guy, all of this stuff.
He is.
And even the social media stuff when he's liking posts about being traded for Sacramento. Look, I get he's not happy here. I get it. It hasn't worked out here, right? Like he's been hurt, high draft pick, all the pressure, the expectations, now out of the rotation. His agent puts out the thing before the season. But what happened at the start of training camp? Here's a quote from him at the starting of training camp.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to do whatever the team needs. That's the biggest thing. We all want to win, and if everybody can continue to put their gifts and talents together in a way that we can win together, that's the biggest thing for us this season. He also said it was the most fun he's had at training camp. And then at the end, we find out that he's not going to be in the rotation because his agent releases that weird statement on social media that got a lot of play. And here we are today. The Kings are down big against the Suns in the second half. And so Walton goes, we're going with a different group. We're going to see if someone else can give us something. He ended up putting Ramsey, Damian Jones, and Chimezie Metu in the game. And apparently he asked Marvin to get in. He did not go in. That can't happen. That's a joke. I mean, you get paid to play in the NBA. I don't care what your situation is. Like, I just think that's negative energy around a team. I think even going back to last year when he got hurt, he went to Phoenix. And the team allowed him to do it. I get all that. To me, it's just so disappointing to hear this story.
I'm not calling him a loser. I'm just calling that a loser mentality because that is what it is. And everyone knows I really like Marvin Bagley. I like him as a person. I think, and we've already said this, I don't need to talk about what a great person he is because he is a nice person. He's not a professional. He's not a winner. That's just not how you handle things. I don't care what level. I don't give a damn if you are on an AAU team. If you are on a high school squad and you pulling that shit, that's a loser mentality. You don't do that. And if anyone's even encouraging you to do that, you need to make sure you step away from that relationship because they are not pointing you in the right direction. It's so disappointing, Deuce. I just feel very disappointed.
Yeah. He's still a young person in this league, and he could still go on to have a super productive career in the NBA. And based on what we're seeing, it seems like it's going to be elsewhere, right? But this is not the way to do it.
No.
Even go to someone like Buddy Hield, for example, right? Like Buddy, we know the ups and downs here in Sacramento. The guy thought he was going to trade to the Lakers. He comes back, and he buys into his role coming off the bench. Buddy Hield wants to start. There's no doubt about it. He wants to start. He probably wishes he was in LA at some point. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure. But the reality is, you wouldn't know it by when he goes out there. He plays hard. He's had a pretty good year this year.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, in this situation, you shouldn't be above that. If I'm Marvin, go out there and get that opportunity because that group that came in against Phoenix, even though they lost the game, that group where Metu and Jones finished the game with Fox and Mitchell and Barnes or whatever that final group was. He could have been a part of that.
Yes.
Maybe he is the reason that they got back in the game. And who knows, maybe he's playing tonight like Metu.
And it's seriously even if he feels like this city, this franchise, this organization let me down, in those moments, only you look bad. You know what I mean? It's in those moments you can be this winner for yourself and show a different side of you that no one even knew you had. All it's going to do is benefit you in the end, even if the team won because you got in on the rotation and you got subbed in, even though it was in a blowout or whatever it was. It's only on you and your resume that's going to look good.
Yeah.
And this handling it like this, even if there's other crap going on, it's optics. It makes you look bad.
Yeah.
That is
and
what
I hope
it is.
he figures it out.
I do
because,
too.
He's a guy that you go, especially with how you've seen the talent. We know the offensive talent's there. Obviously, defensively, he's got a ways to go. But it can still work out for him in the NBA. It's not like he needs to go and never play in the league again. I know a lot of people in Sacramento are like, oh, I'm done with this guy. I get Look, I get all that. I just didn't like how this was handled. I think you have an opportunity to get in there and get some playing time. Like, go show another team. Go show another team what you can do. Like, this is your opportunity to go out there and make an impact. And
that's it.
You shouldn't be above it. You shouldn't be. I mean, no one should. And it also, like, wait, so you're above it, but like Chimeze, like, and Damian Jones. Like, Damian Jones he's played in the league before. He started games on a really good Golden State team at times. Like, I know he's bouncing around, but like, no one's above it. This is a league where if you're in a situation, you're out of the rotation, if you have a chance to go get minutes, go get those minutes.
If you love it enough, and this goes for anything in life, in any occupation, if you love it enough, you are not above anything. If you are asked to do something because it's going to help benefit maybe something later on in your career, especially in the broadcasting world, when you're asked to do things, whether it's for very little or no money, and just because it gets you a little something extra on your resume, a relationship, whatever it is, and it's something stupid that you never want to do, like that stuff happens all the time in so many jobs, but it's the people, it's how they approach it, how they handle those situations, and how they go about it that end up being the winners in the end.
Yeah.